Live.
Hi, welcome to Literarily Wasted. Today we are going to be talking about Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice.
I'm coming.
We
Hang on.
are having a little bit of a different
hold it.
setup this week.
But it's totally worth it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Say hi, Lucas.
Just give it a
Hi.
Okay.
All right, here he comes.
Hello, everybody.
Yay.
Welcome to the Interview with the Vampire live discussion. I'm your host, Cyclops. This is Christy,
I'm Lucas.
and we are here.
And Talia is here, but she's under the weather. So she is behind
I'm the
the...
sneezing vampire. Bye.
So yeah, Talia's behind the computer today, so you get to look at our beautiful faces and semi-faces, and Lucas's vampire teeth. So why don't we dive right in? So it's been 3 weeks since we last had a live discussion. This is the final live discussion of the month, even though it's a new book. So of course, mostly mystery box giveaway. Want to plug that? That's a thing. Join the discussion, and then you might win. So, that said,
Game on.
let's dive in.
Let's talk about the book.
Let's talk about the book. Okay, so let's do initial thoughts. Also, I can't see anything. So Christy and Lucas are gonna look at the comments, and I'll
You're just going to look good.
see you on YouTube there. Okay. So initial thoughts. Who wants to go first? Lucas?
Christy's on the couch.
Christy?
You can go first.
Okay, well, this was not my favorite.
Uh-oh.
Just go ahead and put that out there. I mean, okay, the story was interesting. The narrator was not. And that really sums up how my overall feelings about this book. And it could have been really good. Just if we got in the stats point of view, or Claudia's point of view, or literally anybody else's point of view, it would have been great.
That's a hot take.
That's how I feel. That's what I think.
Lucas?
I think I'm trying really hard to not have... Well, now... It's tough.
Costumes were not made
Being
to
a
be
vampire is
comfortable.
very tough.
I'm sucking in right now.
So...
Mine's pretty
I
cool.
liked it overall. Disclaimer, I audiobooked it because I have way too much stuff going on
So did Christy.
this month. I'm glad I audiobooked it after seeing, we had a lot of posts in the group about complaining about how it was basically like a giant run-on sentence.
Yeah, just how the book was written. And the
Just
format
how
in
it was written
general.
and structured without a lot of breaks. And I kind of struggled with that with the audiobook because I had to keep saving my spot. I liked it overall. I will say, and I know we kind of talked about this and touched on it before we started, but I think the movie's better than the book.
Uh-oh. Well, we haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, we're gonna do that this weekend.
So they have not seen the movie. If you've seen the movie, shoot us a comment. Tell us what you think. Is the book better? Is the movie better? But no, I liked it overall. There were parts that really dragged for me, but there were characters that I really, really liked and wanted to know more about too. Not my favorite, but definitely not
people see us?
my least favorite either.
What are people saying? Can you see us? Are we on screen?
Carrie says, I agree, the movie is better.
Saying costumes.
Lisa, same.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Nicole said, I couldn't finish the book. There were no breaks, and every time I started reading, I wanted to fall asleep.
So here's what I thought of the book.
What do you think, Adam?
I hated it.
Hate is a strong word.
I really disliked this book. I really struggled to finish this book. I finished it last night in a marathon session. It was very angry, but I did it, made it through the book. I did not like it. Of all the vampires you could have chosen to interview, you chose that one?
To be fair, the boy didn't have much of a choice who he got, but Anne Rice did.
Well, but he was so boring. He made being a vampire seem terrible and boring. And he had an existential crisis about everything. We had talked about maybe doing the live discussion in the style of Louis' narration.
Yes.
We sat in front of the cameras, looking into the lens, which looked back at our faces which had 2 eyes and a nose
The light
and mouth
pierced
on
me.
them. I felt nothing
Being
and everything.
This demon, this abomination. I couldn't go on.
There
How could
were-
I?
There were certain things I thought, and all of them were, why am I here?
Okay, that's really enough of that.
So Lazarus said Lestat is the better character. The next book is better, but still, she said she's highly overrated. Talking about Anne Rice.
Oh, I would agree with that. This book, so yeah, and everybody had complaints about the lack of chapters. I also hated that. The fact that there were just giant walls of text was not okay. I bounced back and forth between the audiobook and the regular book, and it was not better either way. I don't have a recommendation for that.
I think the audiobook was actually the way to go. The narration was fantastic.
He made it a little more bearable, but you did have to listen to it on like 1.25 or 1.5 speed.
Oh yeah, I was
It
on
was very
1.5.
slow, yeah.
It was 14 hours if you didn't change it.
But I really do think the narrator was great.
There were parts of this book that I got into that I was like, yeah, okay, this going somewhere, and then he would manage to ruin it in his way of talking.
Well, and I also think Anne Rice is kind of a big tease because she'll like tease like rules and things about the book and the story and then never ever revisit them. Mm-hmm. And that was frustrating for me because I was really interested in those things. Adam's having a hard time seeing.
There you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there were. It seemed very like the whole book. And I get it. It was an interview.
But was it?
It was very Well, it was a guy talking like it was an interview. But it was very like kind of stream of consciousness in terms of like plot points, and that's not like I don't think that was necessarily like a stylistic decision, but and we talked a little bit about how the book was conceived. If you want to like mention that about like how this book
Oh.
began.
Yeah, so Anne Rice had written a 30-page short story. And then she decided to make that into this book. So it started as something very, very short. And I can kind of feel that.
Yeah, for sure. It was like, because on Goodreads, what's going on?
Nothing.
Okay. On Goodreads, like the description was like, started out as a short story and then she just kept writing from there. And I was like, yeah, I can see that for sure. It's like, I don't want to stop writing. What should I do with him now? Oh, I don't know. I'll make him go stumble upon this weird painter guy.
Adam's really kind of concerned about the painter dude.
What was that?
I felt like the story was strong in Louisiana, and it kept my attention a lot more. And the second they went to Europe, I was like, oh gosh, what are they doing? I get that they're trying to find their vampire heritage or whatever, but I feel like it lost a little bit of the luster, if you
Yeah.
will. And Paris for me was really weak. I didn't like the whole Armand thing. I was really confused as to, okay, why is Louis all of a sudden just dropping everything and being so enamored by Armand?
Yeah, that
So
felt,
I feel like once they got to Europe, it kind of took a downhill slide for me. I was really interested and into it in that earlier part, and I wanted to know, like, okay, how did they come to be, all this stuff, and kind of more of the mystery, and then it just kind of started to slide from there for me.
yeah, there were a lot of things that happened. They were like, okay, might be cool, and then like nothing, like the zombie vampires and
Yeah, I
Europe.
really wanted them to go deeper into that. They didn't even tell us how it happened.
Yeah. Julie had a good comment, but don't you think she starts with him, so Louis, because he's more in touch with his humanity, which makes him a gentler intro into the world of vampires? And I could see that.
But maybe it was too gentle.
Too gentle?
yeah, well, I don't know. It depends. Like, she stayed with him. I mean, she never realized he was boring, but
So, does anyone know, and some of our resident, Talia has something.
I'm just going to jump in and interject really quick because I don't feel a sneeze coming on right now. Just want to say this is the first time I've ever listened to an audiobook, just because all of your feedback really made it seem like that was the way to go, that it was a lot more difficult to actually read this physical book. So I tried to listen to the audiobook, and I will say I had less negative feelings than Adam. I think most people had less negative feelings than Adam. However, sorry, I'm really distracted by Cyclops, you can't see. What took me out of it is these really interesting things kept happening. And then in between every single long, like there was this long section between every interesting thing of just long descriptive, like narrative that where nothing at all happened. So I'd get really excited and then really bored for a long time and then tried to get excited again, but then I was really bored again for a long time. And so it just kept taking me out of the story.
And it wasn't even like boredom. Yeah, he was a boring character, but there were times where like there were things happening narratively, and then he would just go into his own head for like pages, and then you're like, then like the next thing happens in the sequence of events, and you're like, wait, what? I forgot what was
I
going
struggled
on.
with that too.
Like I had to go back and be like, what? Wait, who said? And then sometimes it was hard to tell who was talking, because of the way they spoke to each other was really unusual. I just had problems.
No, I struggled with that too, where I'd lose track, and I was listening too, but it was like, wait, that's where I think it would have probably helped to read along with it, because I had no idea if he was in his own head or if this was something, and I caught myself rewinding several times to try to get my brain on straight, and then be like, oh, that's just him, soliloquying to himself, pontificating over and over again.
Talia mentioned this when we were talking about it earlier. The way it's written, it feels like somebody who's trying to write like an essay in high school, and they know they have to write like 5,000 words and they don't have enough, so they have to like try to find as many adjectives that they can to squeeze in there to like hit the word length, which is something that I did. But all the adjectives, like everything had to have at least 2 adjectives. And like she was like, just like I gotta make this book so many pages, so I'm gonna like really fill it up with endless talking.
Dan said, this is one of the few books I've read where I felt the ending compensated for the mediocrity of the rest of the book. I do love the ending.
Okay, the ending was interesting because I felt the same way that the boy did. Like when all is said and done, and he's like, "That's it." He's like, I sat through 14 hours of you just talking to come to the point that like nothing matters, and then we're done. And he's like, make me a vampire, I'll do it. And then he was like, I'm gonna try but not do it. And then he's like, fine. The end of the book is like him saying, fine, I'll go talk to Lestat. And I'm like, you should have done that.
Well, you just made an interesting point. Like, he goes through all of that, and his main takeaway is that nothing matters. But before Louis became a vampire, nothing mattered. He
true.
was on the verge of being suicidal. He just wouldn't take his own life. He was putting himself in situations to hopefully end it.
Yeah, that was the most reckless he ever was in this whole book. And then I turned into a vampire, and he's like, I must be careful, I don't know.
But I mean, I think that like that personality that he had before being a vampire maybe bled in a little bit. Like, nothing does matter.
Yeah, nothing matters, everybody.
Jeff has a good comment. He said, how do you introduce a different kind of vampire, the mindless one, so the one that they saw in I guess
in Europe, the
Western
European
Europe,
ones.
and then Eastern, and then completely don't do anything with them. That is the story I'd be interested in.
Or at least explain it. Like, give us a reason why it happened. Like, Claudia, like, guesses. She has theories about it, but we don't actually hear why. And, like, one of the things Louis was so interested in Armand is that he was going to be, like, almost not a father figure, but someone who could guide him and teach him. And Armand, I didn't see that happen very much at all. And Armand even had like powers that the others didn't, and I don't know why he didn't share that, especially with such a willing pupil.
Yeah. Well, the whole, like Lucas said, the whole Armand thing was weird anyway. But yeah, I agree about the mindless vampires, because that was fascinating.
Well, and some of the lore that came with that part, I was really interested in, but they never touched back on it. Like, what's his name?
The British guy.
Yeah.
It's like Chesterfield.
Morgan and Emily, when they first get to that town, he goes to the graveyard and they let loose a white horse and it like wanders around the graveyard or the cemetery and then it stops over a grave with a vampire in it or maybe an empty grave, I'm not sure. But like that was really interesting. I wanted more of that. And like that's the only time where we got garlic and the only time where we got the aversion to crosses, which obviously those are just the European zombie vampires, but still, I really appreciated that stuff. I just wish there was more.
Yeah, and then Lisa said, I feel like so much changes when they go to Paris and meet Armand. Armand's power is so trippy and changes the way Louis narrates, not necessarily for the better, because we don't know if he's talking about, if what he's talking about is real or in his head.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, everything was in his head. He was a basket case.
So what did you like besides Adam? What did you like? Was there anything you liked?
There were parts. So I liked when they addressed vampire stereotypes. And he's like, "Oh, you think I don't have a reflection? That's funny."
Yeah, I like that too.
You know, parts where it seemed like there was more personality in Louis than just like, "I don't know what I'm doing." Those were good. You know, I was more into the New Orleans part, the whole Louis, Lestat, Claudia triangle thing that was going on. That seemed cohesive, and then it seemed like Lestat died almost halfway through the book, and then they started going on these weird adventures, and that's where it kind of like seemed.
Yeah,
really
I think it's a testament to how interesting Lestat is, because I guess that's a great way to put it. Is like as soon as he kind of fell off, it was like, I really liked Claudia's character. I mean, it's kind of like a tragic pity that you have on this girl that didn't have any choice in anything really, and now she's, I mean, it's so weird that she's basically like become this fully, you know, mentally a woman, but she's trapped in this body. You know, it's very tragic, but I really liked her character. Definitely some weird, like, familial love kind of thing going on.
We're going to talk about vampire love in a second.
Yeah.
Well, Anne Rice's use of the word lover.
Yep.
Lava.
I mean, other things I liked. I mean, the reason I think I liked the whole stuff with Lestat is because, like, Lestat was like a window into vampire world that Louis was getting in sort of education, and I wanted to know more about, like, you know, his story versus Louis' story, and like, I thought that was going to develop more than it was, and we were going to get answers and revelations and things like that about being a vampire and about, like, you know, all of that, and then it just went in a completely different direction, and he meanders around for a long time trying to find other vampires, and then the vampires that he does find is Armand, who was not interesting to me at all. And
well, there's Santiago, who you can do anything as long as you don't call him a buffoon.
Don't call him a buffoon, yeah. And then once it started, like, you know, once Lestat went away and they started going around, one of the things I didn't like about Louis was that he was incredibly passive throughout the entire book. Like, you know, the first half when Lestat is there, Lestat is in control. Lestat is saying, like, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do this. And then they get Claudia in the picture, and then all of a sudden, like, Claudia is the one, like, calling the shots. She's the one that has to be like, patience, Louis. and Louis just like, okay, you just drag me around, just do whatever you want with me.
Well, that was kind of his thing, was to make no decisions and don't start anything and just go along with whoever he's with.
Yeah, but you're the main character of a story. Don't just sit there.
But that was his personality.
He's a terrible person.
So does anybody know, does Louis come back in any of the other Chronicle books? Question to the group? Comment? I don't know.
We'll need people to comment in.
Yeah.
No one here knows.
Nobody here knows. Scott, you don't know?
I've only read.
Scott doesn't know.
It's my first time reading Interview with a Vampire.
Wow.
I've only made it through the first 3.
Revelation.
So you know, and here's another thing I didn't like about the book. I get that the title is Interview with the Vampire, but why? why did it have to be an interview with the vampire? Why couldn't it just be a story about a vampire?
Yeah, it would have been much better if we weren't in Louis's head.
Because the whole time it's just Louis talking to Christian Slater. Instead
We've got
of,
people saying he does. Frankie and Katie
Yeah,
say he does make a reappearance.
great.
Okay.
Great.
Well, but as long as it's not from his perspective, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and like, if the story was just told, and not Louis recapping the story or like retelling the story, we're just like watching the story, that could have been more interesting. If we had a narrator that wasn't first person narration, it was just like, this is the story.
It's kind of like Cyclops. It's kind of like he's
Yes.
you know, this
Go
passive
on.
kind of blah character that you're
Cyclops
like,
is a leader. He's a leader of the
Uh-huh.
X-Men.
okay.
Besides Professor X, Cyclops is the leader in the field. Him and Storm. Then
Hey, I'm over here.
I know where you are. I can hear you. I don't have to take this. Where is everybody? I can't get up and walk because I'll trip over something.
Matt says, I actually agree with Adam. The framework of the journalist really doesn't work for me. Doesn't add anything to the story.
Well, yeah, because the journalist, every time he asks a question, Louis like, I don't want to talk about that yet. I'll get to it later. I really want to do this in my own order. And he like trained him. So by the end of the interview, he's like, I'll just wait.
And the journalist disappears throughout like pretty much the second half of the book. He's gone. Like they don't have any interaction
I
between
didn't
like
even notice
Louis
that.
and the boy. It's just Louis telling his story, and I'm surprised the boy stayed awake.
Well, maybe that's why he didn't say anything.
There were so many.
It's because he was asleep.
There were so many times I fell asleep reading this book.
Like, yeah.
So many times. Like Christy would come into the room, and I'd just be like, with my book open. So this is very
Slumped over.
flattering. I can't see. What are people saying on YouTube? Okay, talking points. Let's get into the nitty gritty of the book. We've got relationships going on. We've got Louis and Claudia, Louis and Lestat, Louis and Armand, Claudia and Madeline,
Louis and Babette.
Louis and Babette, if that is her real
And
name.
well, yeah, we'll call her or Babette. He is how he praised it. But then also her brother and Lestat's like obsession with him.
Yeah, that people fall hard and fast in this book.
They do.
Like it's vampire love is a love unlike any other, and it's very progressive. There's no gender or age bias there, because Louis and Claudia's relationship was a little like what?
A little. It was,
That's a lot
it was
strange.
straight up strange.
Yeah, he called her his lover.
Well,
Well, I don't know what that means in vampire lingo.
I don't ever think it was
Let's ask
sexual.
Count
It
Chocula.
just sounded
I think
it.
it's like a bloodlust. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they share
sensuality through the blood.
But there's also some like sexy stuff going on.
Is it sexy?
Well, but like
There's
I don't
no
know.
sex.
Like there's none of that. But like let's like
the way things are
Armand
described, they're very sensual.
Armand and Armand's boy. When Armand's boy approaches Louis and Louis sucks his blood, there's some like
Yeah.
arousal going on. So like there's and like
Yeah, but they don't actually ever have sex. He specifically talks about
I know they
how,
don't.
like,
I
the
would've remembered
passion
that.
they experience is all through the bloodlust and the hunting itself.
but the boy
That
was
is the
very
only passion
aroused.
that they need.
Remember
Well,
that?
yeah,
Then
well,
they
he's
killed
not a
him.
vampire. He still has blood pumping all through him. Sorry.
Yeah, but he was like 10, or I guess I don't know. But like, yeah, there's a lot of like, you know, it's non-sexual love. But it's very powerful. And like, you know, Armand and Louis, it was love at first sight. And for some reason,
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I
I didn't get
still
that.
that to me that was like, because they had built up his relationship with Claudia so much, and like, in a weird way, I could understand that more because it was like he reared her to a degree, and like, you know, they slept in the same coffin, and you know, they had this bond for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden it was like, snap.
Armand
No,
is my
I
man.
want to go be with him, and it's like,
yeah. Like, oh,
okay, yeah,
sure.
cool.
Like you haven't been
Just
around
like
for
make me a
3,000
vampire
years.
mom, and they can make me dolls, and we're good.
Yeah, the introduction of Madeline so late in the story. I mean, I know we got a taste of her earlier. I know we got a taste of her earlier when, because Chrissy reminded me when they bought the doll.
She got the doll.
She got the doll,
Yeah.
and I guess that's where she met Madeline. Madeline had some issues, but like introducing her so late and like Claudia being like, "Make me a mom."
Yeah, so like, how did that conversation come up? It's like, oh, little girl, you come and I make you these women dolls, and you're a vampire. Cool, let's go back to your decadent hotel, and
Well,
like
she
maybe
said
I could be your
he's
vampire
exactly
mom.
like you described him. Like
But
they did talk about
They
it.
But
talked about it.
Armand like straight up said like if Louis hadn't made her a vampire, he would have done it because she was perfect for that. She was kind of crazy. I think they said it. She's like a
She's a
little
little.
bit insane, and
That's what you need.
she lost her daughter. So I think the idea of having like replacing her daughter with a girl who will never die, was not supposed to die. It was like really, really appealing. Yeah,
Yeah, that didn't end well.
it did not.
Nydia says that every book of the Chronicles is full of weird relationships.
I'm not surprised.
It's a vampire thing.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, well, look at Twilight.
I also wonder, Claudia studied vampires. She studied the history, she studied the folklore, the
Yeah,
novels.
she was getting into the occult. and
Yeah,
stuff
she
like that.
also like thought through everything. She was coming up with theories about like why the zombie vampires were like they were, and coming up with theories about everything. So like Armand had that special power where he can influence people because he influenced Louis to like turn Madeline into a vampire. I wonder if Claudia picked up on some of it.
It's possible. Claudia was much more astute than
More astute,
Louis
yeah.
was. Louis was not astute at all, even though he had heightened senses.
They all had heightened senses.
Yeah. So if everybody has heightened senses, nobody does.
She also was made into a vampire when she was so young and wasn't, I don't know, I think it was an easier transition for her. And
She
so
didn't
I
have
think accepting like new stuff and new abilities was probably way easier for her.
She didn't have a lot of time to be a human first.
No, not
But
at
then
all.
it's like they almost forget, like the way it's written, they almost forget their humanity like
Mm-hmm.
instantaneously. to a
Except for
degree.
Louis, for some reason. He
Yeah.
held on to it so hard.
Julie had another good comment, but I think this because Louis knew he could never have a complete relationship with Claudia, and she became aware of that too as she grows wiser despite stating a child in form. And I think that's the weird part to me because there is no like physical aspect of it, but then they like hint at that too, that like, you know, she wants to be, you know, a real woman.
Well, she like straight up says
yeah,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, she was very mad at him.
Yeah.
Well, it's also 60 years before she asked. Because it like mentions the timeline. She was a vampire for like 60 years before she finally asked, how did I become a vampire? And I think that's really interesting.
It's a long time.
It really is. And I read in the description that like Louis' story takes place over like 200 years. And I thought that was really interesting because it wasn't clear to me when time was jumping.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do wish. I mean, as much as we've had time hop books, every single book, but I do wish that she would have at least given a little bit of context of the year at least, because I think that would have been a cool, at least, journey to see like, oh my gosh, they lived this lifestyle doing this in this hotel for 20 years. You're
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Oh, one of the things that really bothered me about the book is you have 3 vampires living in New Orleans. It states in the book that Lestat will kill 2 to 3 people a
Night.
day.
Yeah.
And then that means that Claudia is killing at least 1, and then Louis, depending on what stage he's in, is either killing a ton of animals or like that many humans. How did they get away with that for decades?
I don't know.
Plague.
I mean, it does actually say that there's like plague and sickness and crime in New Orleans, and so when they went to Europe, they had to be way more strategic. But I still think like that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought about that too. It was like, oh, we're gonna get this cool storyline where like the townspeople start to catch on, and like all of a sudden they're like hunted, and like
Well,
I thought that would have been fun.
We almost got
And-
that a couple of times with the slaves and the servants.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that noticed weird things, and they also had like a cultural background
Yeah.
to be able to like
Yeah,
see it as something
more, yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciated that. I appreciated that aspect.
I did
of
too.
that, and I thought there would be more, and then it just turned into like vampires hating on vampires because you broke the one rule. You tried to kill a vampire.
That you didn't know about.
Yeah, you didn't know about that. Sorry.
And Lestat didn't tell them anything. It cracked me up kind of. But when he first made Louis into a vampire, he takes him out for his first feed. He doesn't tell him any of the rules, and then he got really pissed at him for like trying to continue to drink after the heart stopped beating. Like,
Yeah.
he never mentioned it. How's he supposed to know anything?
He's a bad teacher.
And I feel like that probably like happened in their relationship constantly.
Yeah, it definitely did. So, this is kind of an aside, but like for those of you that read the physical book, which was nobody on camera,
You read it.
I did.
You read most of it.
But for those of you watching at home or wherever you are that read the physical book, could you figure out like, because there were sometimes breaks, but not all breaks were the same. Sometimes there were just little spaces in between words, and sometimes there was a space and the first letter of the word was big and capital and bold. But I really couldn't like figure out like, one was maybe like a small like breath and the other one's like a bigger like chapter break. I don't know. It was weird. It's good stopping points though. Anyway, chime in on that. This book, not my favorite.
I thought at the very beginning, Louis's brother, like his obsession and his faith and his visions and his death were all really interesting
Yeah,
to me.
I wanted to know more, and then it was just like,
And then he fell down the stairs.
Which
And
was
that
really
was it.
weird. It was described. He
He, like, got
went to
pushed
the
up.
top of the stairs, he looked up, and then he just fell. And like I couldn't have been a suicide. They were Catholic and he was super like religious, but I don't know. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, there were a lot of seeds planted that never grew.
Yeah. And the fact that Louis and everyone else blamed Louis for it for some reason because they got into a fight beforehand.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to know, like, okay, so his plantation basically like burns down, and maybe I missed this, so y'all let me know. But like, what happened? So obviously they're wealthy, and like they're probably accruing interest in stealing stuff from people as they kill them.
They've also been, well, Lestat is definitely stealing, like emptying people's
Yeah,
pockets.
yeah.
But I think Louis is taking all the money and like investing it in properties around New Orleans, I think.
But like, I wanted to know more of like what happened to his land. I guess I don't know.
He was
burned it
buried
down.
there. They like faked his death at the plantation,
Yeah.
and he has a grave there.
Yeah.
So
he,
I
he
think-
went back to it, I think, didn't he? Didn't he bury Armand's leftover coffin in like his
Yeah, something like
Plot or
that.
Oh yeah, that sounds familiar. So I think he just pretended to be dead, and he like moved on with all the money he has like planted.
Can we talk about how fickle Louis is? Like, when he first meets Lestat, he like falls in love with Lestat. And then Lestat like changes him to a vampire and he's like enthralled with him, and all of a sudden he's like, meh, I'm over him. Same thing happened with Armand. He like fell head over heels with Armand. They start like traveling around. They go to Egypt, they go to all these places, and then he's like, I'm done with you.
He was also starting to separate himself from Claudia before she died.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that might just be a character trait.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then he's like, nothing matters.
I mean, I feel like that's just who he is. So Bobette was really interesting to me. She, I don't know, the way he appeared to her as if he was like an angel or something
Yeah.
supernatural and like would give her advice and kind of guide her was really interesting. And he tried to protect her. And then like at the end of her little thing, Lestat drinks from her, but Louis saves her, and then they both leave. But they have this like really cryptic thing. He's like, oh, I thought I saved her, but really I only saved her physical form, and I would find out about that later. And then we never,
never
found
heard
out
Well,
about it.
didn't we hear like one thing about how she basically like went crazy-ish,
Yeah.
and like
and died. But
Yeah, so
So I
it's
guess
like,
it's- I
okay,
guess
way
that
to
was
wrap
it.
up that one,
I
Anne.
still, I mean, for that kind of foreshadowing, I was expecting something much more. Like, I was expecting, like, a different breed of vampire, like the zombie vampires or something.
I was expecting her to turn up as a vampire later. Be like, Babbitt. And Lestat, man, that guy can survive anything.
All the vampires can. They're supposed to be
Except
really
for-
hard to kill.
Except for Claudia and Madeline.
Well, they were locked in a courtyard while the sun came up.
Yeah, that's bad.
That's bad.
Bad. Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I feel like Louis would listen to a lot of My Chemical Romance, says Lisa. Yeah, he's definitely a he's kind of an emo
Vampire.
vamp.
I found it kind of interesting that Lestat only made the couple of vampires that we found out about, and he did them so rarely.
Yeah, he
Like-
had his little guy too.
Yeah,
The musician.
The musician. And it implied at the very end that there was definitely more. That each time he makes one, they leave him eventually when he was really old. But like, it seemed pretty easy to do, and Lestat doesn't seem like the type who cares about anything. So I don't know why he didn't make more vampires. Like when he was looking for a companion and Louis wasn't the right one, I felt like he could just make more, and I don't know why he didn't.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know why he didn't either.
I mean,
No.
I get why he made Louis. He was using him for his money. And I guess I get why he made Claudia. He's like trying to torture Louis and keep him with him.
Yeah, he was trying to keep Louis there.
It was also a big sign of Claudia was when he finally broke and feasted on a human again for the first time since his first time. And so I think like making her into a vampire was a way for Louis for Lestat to torture Louis a little bit.
Yeah, which he liked to do.
Oh.
But Louis was so easy to torture. I could have tortured Louis.
But Claudia's thing about like not torturing, but toying with humans before she fed on them, I found really interesting.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I want that story.
She learned that from Lestat.
No,
Yeah, no, she definitely did. But I think like from like a 5 or 6 year old girl's
Oh.
body, like that's evil.
basically luring people in and like getting them to buy her stuff and then being like, oh, and by the way,
Yeah, exactly. I kind of love that.
Yeah, a lot of things that we could have gotten if it weren't in Louis's head.
like
Whole
I
time.
felt like I wanted, I like so much about what she built, but I wanted, and yes, I'm gonna say this, like there's aspects of, if you've read the Twilight books, that the vampire world that they build in that, and like all the different kind of classes and everything that's in that. I wanted more of that in this book.
I actually read a comment from the group that that the Twilight books like borrowed a lot from this book and the series, which I haven't read them, so I can't comment on. But
I've read them all. They're
I've read them all too.
this. I will say, not to get into that, but to me, the second book is the hardest because it's super teen angst. But
did you find that did you see similarities? Do you think there were
yeah,
some
I
borrowed
think
themes?
I think overall, she paints a pretty traditional vampire portrait, and I think Twilight adopts some of that, but then takes it to some different places.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's werewolves and stuff like
Yeah.
that in that one.
Interview with the Vampire, though, you say Twilight has a lot of teen angst and you should skip it. Interview with the Vampire was a lot of like straight angst
Yeah, not teen.
from like old people angst.
So Mascalisi said that one of the most interesting parts to him was that their Achilles heel is just living past their prime. And I think that was interesting, although we didn't see it too much, where they would just go off to die, like in the
Yeah,
sun.
I know Jeff had commented, and I think Jennifer commented on that too, where it's just like they just eventually get bored. It's like, oh my God, what the heck are we gonna do today? Oh, let's
So
go feast on a
Louis-
human.
Any day now, because he seems really bored.
Man, he's just ugh. Get me started.
You comfortable there,
No,
Adam?
the face hole in his costume is so small.
Adam, when Adam takes his mask off, he looks like a Shar-Pei puppy.
It's better that I don't. Cyclops, you go through a lot to do what you do. I respect it.
I was expecting Adam to show up in his Schwartz Ghostbuster costume, but he pulled it out.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you could see my eyes, I was agreeing with that. You got some more talking points?
Talia, how you doing back there?
Can people hear me sniffling?
She's good.
Yes.
Oh,
Aw.
sorry. I turned my mic off just in case.
What you got?
So Renee said that she felt like Claudia was the best and most powerful vampire out of the three.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh,
If
yeah.
she was created in an older age, she would have been unstoppable.
Or maybe she would have been stoppable because she would have had time to like digest the perils of being mortal like Louis did. I think part of her, like we talked about this earlier, I think part of her like unstoppableness comes from the fact that she really only knew how to be a vampire. She didn't know anything else. She only felt the vampire urges.
Yeah, if you've read Twilight, Rachel says Claudia reminded me of Renesmee in the Twilight books.
Renesmee.
I'm not going to give any spoilers as to
Got
who
it.
that is, but
Don't know who that is.
So if Claudia hadn't been killed, how do you think her life would have turned out?
she would have been the horror.
Not a vampire, like if she just hadn't been killed with Madeline.
Oh,
What?
I was just saying, like, there's nothing left. Come on.
Well, she was an orphan. So she would have.
I mean,
exactly what
look,
I was
you're in New
expecting that
Orleans.
to go.
You're in the
read?
French
Let
Quarter.
me see the fan fiction you wrote. Let me see it.
Stop talking. I'm not putting the camera on you.
Oh, Talia's banned me from the camera.
I have.
I think Claudia would not have survived if she had not been turned into a vampire.
Yeah, but if she had, but just hadn't died in Paris.
Oh.
That
Oh.
is what. Thank you.
How would her life have turned out? I don't know. She and Madeline would have had.
Carrie says she would have died of smallpox.
Definitely, if she hadn't been turned into a vampire.
She would have had adventures with Madeline, doll making and stuff. I don't know. I think she would have. She would have been like a rogue superhero vampire, and Armand's crew would have been the bad guys, and she would be like fighting the bad guys.
Well, something interesting about Claudia is Anne Rice actually was inspired by her own daughter,
That's creepy.
who died when she was like 5 or 6 of leukemia. And so she wrote the short story shortly after her daughter died.
And Claudia, her daughter's name was Claudia?
No.
Like that's a horrible thing to have to go through, but I don't know, like, a remembrance to that degree is kind of weird. Like,
But she'll live on in some form.
yeah.
Well, she died.
But
Sleeping in the
also,
coffin.
maybe Anne Rice is kind of like Madeline, where like she just wants
See a little
her
cray.
daughter to come back, and she wants her daughter to never die, and Claudia represents that. So Julie said, going back to earlier, she would have become a leader among the vampires, and yeah, I kind of feel like she would have. She was so strong, like she just had the plan, and she was able to talk Louis into stuff, and I think she was even able to guide Lestat to a certain extent.
She was pretty manipulative as well.
Yeah. And like Armand wouldn't use his powers over them, but I don't think Claudia would have had that problem.
Yeah. The bad guy vampires. Santiago, is it Estelle and Celeste?
Celeste, I know.
The only named ones really in that group.
I mean, it sucks to be that human in the theater, right? To like wake up and be like, all of a sudden these vampires around
he
you.
was a
Like,
sacrificial human.
Yeah. Well, and how often do they do that play? Is it the same play every time?
I don't know. They can't have too many plot points, but that's the only thing they get really excited about, right?
Yeah,
so it's just like a different person, and that's
That's kind of
it's
how
kind of like
I feel
improv,
like it is,
right?
Yeah.
You've got
It's by invitation only, so it's not like the same audience came every day.
Yeah. So here's a question:
Okay.
Are vampires inherently evil?
Oh, let's talk about what is evil. You want to know what is evil? Do you think you are evil? Inherently evil.
I mean, it was discussed
It
enough.
only
I
takes-
feel like we should have an
It only
idea.
takes one sin to make you evil, and that is that of taking a life, a mortal life.
Well, and Louis at one point
So-
said that like all sins have the same weight, right? He like if you do anything bad, like there's not levels of evil.
Louis had a very black and white view of good and evil, and he was like, "We're evil. We're children of the devil." And then Armand's like, "But did doesn't God make the devil? And then aren't we not children of God if God made the devil and we're the children? And there was a long talk, and then they're like, nothing matters.
In this universe, I mean, we don't know how long it went back, right? But theoretically, it could have gone back to the dawn of time. So maybe good and evil, if they are evil, but I mean, maybe that's just nature in this world, right? There's these groups of creatures and these groups of creatures, and I don't know.
Yeah, so Dan says they're supposed to be inherently evil, but Louis is determined to get us to believe he's the exception. I'm not sure he thought he was the exception.
He thought he was evil.
Wanted to be, but I don't think he thought he was.
Yeah, that was part of his whole crisis, is that he's like, I'm evil. I don't want to be evil. You made me evil, and now I'm evil because I have to kill people to live. Evil. What is evil?
Yeah. I kind of wish they had touched on, like, how vampires happened in the first place, because there's no like mythology or lore about that in this book.
So you know that it was 400 years that Armand's been around.
Did they say that?
Yeah, so there's
okay.
So he was the what he knew as the oldest vampire, but 400 years.
Okay, yeah. Well, and did he think he was the oldest vampire of like his Paris crew or just in general?
I think in
world,
general, in the world, he was the oldest vampire.
The oldest living vampire.
And I guess his love, that he was enamored with made him, but I don't remember, do we know what happened to the guy that created Armand?
That might have been one of the ones that just got bored and
he's like,
left, yeah. So Cindy asks, why would Armand think killing is fine but making a child vampire is evil? Because it is. It's just cruel.
Permanent.
Yeah.
And death is also permanent.
Well,
they're
but
not stuck in like the dying stage for eternity.
and death is also natural. Like maybe not killing, but if they're human, it's only a matter of time. So maybe that has something to do with it.
I was under the impression that Armand didn't think anything was evil.
Well,
Armand was just like, it is what it is.
He also didn't seem to care about the big rule where you can't kill another vampire, because he knew that Louis and Claudia, thank you, did, and I don't think it mattered to him.
Well, he was in love with Louis. Love makes you do crazy things,
I guess.
like wear Cyclops costumes.
Sorry, YouTubers, I'm catching up. Thank y'all for being here. Adam cannot see anything.
I can't see anything.
Oh, Gene says Armand's creation is in the second book. What do you mean about that?
What?
Say it again.
Say that one more time.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, read it.
Gene says Armand's creation is in the second book. I may have skipped.
Armand's creation.
Yeah.
They did not touch on Armand's creation in this book.
Maybe he meant creator.
Oh, creator.
Creator.
Did you mean creator, Gene?
So if you want to keep reading.
Well, and I like that the other books are from like Lestat and Armand's perspective. I would be interested in that because I think Lestat was a really interesting character. Do they have them from the perspective of Claudia, or did we just get that through Louis? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
So Gene, on YouTube, Gene says you actually get the backstory in the second book of the series. So he says, read the second book. So thank you, Gene.
It's like The Godfather 2.
Yeah, it's like Godfather 2. You got to go forward to go backward.
Got to get up to get down. So I have a question, because I honestly don't know the answer. Why did Louis bite the boy in the end? He didn't kill him. He didn't turn him into a vampire. He really did nothing to him.
I think he was going to turn him into a vampire. I think that was the first step, because that's how it was done to him. Because Lestat drank from him and then left him for like 24 hours and then came back and finished it.
But you'd think he would know that. He sat there and listened to Louis talk for like a day. Well,
and are we sure that he wasn't made into a vampire before he woke up? Because Because I thought he was, because he was going to go see Lestat.
Was he? Was he a vampire? Help me.
I don't think, because he didn't drink of his blood.
Yeah, he didn't drink out of anybody's wrist.
He's like, am I going to live? And he's like, and Lou's like, I don't know, you might.
He's like, maybe. You reading?
I don't think he was.
He just lost consciousness.
Yeah.
So why did he do that?
And the boy saw the sun, but I mean, Louis had a whole day. Like his last day, he was able to see the sun, and like he saw his last sunset, which he didn't care about.
So if
for
you
some
haven't
reason.
seen the movie ends differently.
Well,
That's
No
all I'm gonna
spoilers.
say.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. And I will say, watching the movie, I think, and I know Anne Rice really liked the movie and how it turned out. Talia was reading me something of how she was really skeptical and kind of boycotted it, but then I think wrote an apology letter to Tom Cruise, right, Talia?
Yeah, she didn't agree with Tom Cruise being cast because like her first three choices like all turned it down. But then after she was given a copy of the movie and she watched it, she sent him an apology and then took out like personal ads promoting the movie like herself because they did such a good job.
Gene says the movie sucks.
It's probably better than the book.
It's got Christian Slater. Come on.
Come on, Christian Slater. He was in Star Trek 6.
someone, Missy on YouTube said that Armand's creator is still around, and we meet him in one of the other books.
Oh.
And I think that could be really cool.
I know
See, all these cool things.
Yeah, my mom's read the entire series, I think, and she said the only one that was a real dud was something about Memnoch.
Something about Interview with the Vampire.
Memnoch the Devil. She said that one was.
I don't know. This one was.
I don't know if I'll get that far, Mother, but thank you. Watching Adam trying to read in the Cyclops suit might be my favorite part of the night so far. Yes,
You're welcome.
Rachel.
I can do with this all day.
You definitely look like a superhero trying to read a book.
It's as cool as Cyclops will ever look.
Vicky says if Adam stares too hard at the book, it might get blown up. Which it could be worse.
Oh, I just turned to the lover page.
That's like
Yeah,
half
read
the
it.
pages.
Why don't you read us an excerpt?
No.
We reeled about the room as if to the wildest waltz, father and daughter, lover and lover. That's not okay, even for vampires. You're gonna turn my camera off.
In a Healthy Kitchen on YouTube says that she agrees with my mother about the books. Thank you. I will tell her that.
So, is anybody going to read more Anne Rice?
I am not.
Yeah, chime in. Write a comment. Are you going to read on in this one? Because me personally, I've got other... Like, I really want to get back to Shift in the Wool series. I think I've made it clear that Wool has been my favorite book that we've read. But guys, we read... How many... Was this 6 books now?
I don't know. Yes.
We've read 6.
See,
I've
here's
read
the-
6
here's one of the
books.
parts.
6 books.
See, this is the part where it starts with a big letter,
The Vampire Side.
and then other times
Talia just sighed.
it's just like there's a little break. Consistency is a problem.
Yeah, formatting. This is a lesson for anyone. Formatting is a big
Yeah, a ton of people had a problem with it. Like, it really
help your
affected-
reader. Help your reader. Help the slow readers.
Make chapters.
Yeah.
Give people a place to stop.
Yeah, because you know, I went back and forth between the book and the audiobook, and in the book, like we're just reading, you know, I would be bored, and I would like try to. The first time I realized there were no chapters, I was like, I'll just read to the whatever the next break is, and I started flipping pages, and I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And it was just like solid walls of text, and that really like. I had so much anxiety at that point. It was a problem.
Yeah, I just knew I wouldn't be able to do it. So
And then I listened to the audiobook, and then I was like, once I knew, I was like, well, I'm just gonna have to like stop. I'm gonna like wait for him to pause between sentences, and then like stop. And then but the table of contents had like
the table of contents. If you have the Audible, the first section is 6 hours and 50 minutes or something, and then you get like a section that's like 7 minutes. I'm like, couldn't we divide that up a little bit more evenly?
Hey, so there's hope for the other books. Leanne says Lestat is a much better narrator than Louis.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, they made a movie about the vampire Lestat too, right? That was a movie? No?
They made Queen of the Damned.
Queen of the
Third
Damned. With Rihanna or someone.
Oh, what?
I don't know.
Get out.
She's a pop star,
That was
right?
Battleship.
Battleship?
Battleship had Rihanna in it.
Oh, they made a Battleship movie. That's right.
yeah, it was
That's a
bad.
horrible
I
idea.
watched part of it somewhere.
They go, "You sunk my battleship."
Liam
There's a
Neeson.
line in there.
Liam Neeson.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. Yep. So Battleship, better than Interview with the Vampire.
Oh my god. If you haven't made a comment yet for this one.
To remind you, if you haven't made a comment yet, do so. Because that will enter you to win our Mostly Mystery Box giveaway. And you do not want to miss out on this one. Look at me. Look me in the eye. Don't miss out. Leave a comment. Just has to be one. If you leave multiple comments, it doesn't give you an advantage, but we love having you in the discussion. But leave a comment. Say hey.
YouTube, y'all count.
Yeah, YouTube counts too.
We always check on y'all.
Always.
And we've had winners from YouTube in
Yeah.
the past.
Okay. So,
Talia, do you have anything else?
final thoughts on Interview with the Vampire.
No.
I hated it.
How would you? Okay,
It
if you
stinks.
if you put it in your book stack of literarily wasted books, where
on-
does it fall? Is it the bottom?
Is the bottom the worst?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Strong.
Well, but we've read some really good books.
We have read good books.
I think this is my least favorite of the choices that we've had
See?
for Literarily Wasted.
I think Night Circus still happily sits on the bottom for me.
Ugh.
That was a rough one for me personally. But look, I mean, 2 books in 1 month. That's pretty awesome.
it.
I did like, if y'all missed out, you can go watch the video on demand for our complete video of We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Anyone who hasn't commented, say, Cyclops is lame. That does count, Vicky. Please.
Good thing I can't read your comments.
That is the comment.
Oh. Well, you're wrong. I'll see your name on the mystery box giveaway. I'll be like, "Really?"
Where to find us?
So, but remember, November, it's coming up. Stephen King's Eyes of the Dragon. The Eyes of the Dragon? The Eyes of the Dragon. It's not a horror book. It's fantasy. It's more straight fantasy. I read it a long time ago. I really liked it. I don't remember anything about it, so I'm looking forward to reading it again. But if you go to Second and Charles, you can get it for 20% off. Really looking forward to reading Eyes of the Dragon. We've got the dates for the live discussions posted on the group. You can see it in our cover photos. And if you don't know, you can just ask. Send us a message or something. It's not on the cover photo yet.
It's not November.
I can see Talia shaking
It'll
her
be there
head.
Friday.
It's
It'll
blurry.
Be there in November.
It's in the video that we posted. You can see it there. But just ask us. We'll tell you. And don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter, too. Check out our Facebook group, the Literarily Wasted Lounge, where conversation happens all day, every day. Thank you all for being a big part of that.
Yeah, it's a fun group. I tell people all the time that
What are they doing?
It's one of the more. What are y'all doing? We can't see. There's TVs there.
What?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You said
Thank
that.
you to Second and Charles. Yeah, thanks, Second and Charles, for everything.
We're at their Hoover, Alabama
here.
location.
That's Second and
right
Charles.
here by the book wall.
In front of the book wall. Second Charles offering up, really cool things, discounts on our Literarily Wasted Book of the Month, and providers of our Mostly Mystery Box giveaway items, which are fantastic.
And y'all, that's like a $200 to $250 value on. No.
$700 million. It's not that much.
But I have to say, also go ahead if you're liking our content, please share it with your friends. I'm really proud to say that we are so close to having 2,000 members in the Literarily Wasted main page, and we've got like almost 1,200 in the group.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome.
Yeah, if you know communities of book lovers that you think would be really into this, spread the word. We're open and inviting, and we want everybody to be in this.
People who don't read but want to read more.
People who don't read and want to read more.
Like me.
Like me and Lucas.
That's
don't
right.
read
How many
and
books did you read this year?
I have read 6 books this year.
6 and a
How many
half.
books did you read last year?
1 half.
The answer's none. Go back to Adam and Kristen.
Maybe 1.
Matt Scalisi wants you to scream Jean.
Gene.
No, you got to look up in the sky.
Come on now.
Gene.
Oh,
I can't, my face doesn't move well. Gene. Magneto. Are you there? You still there?
I think you're done.
Stop.
Okay. I'm going to go.
and we have something special for December plans. We're not going to tell you yet,
I
but
got to go stop the stream.
Or we could tell you.
yep. Or we could.
Oh, yeah.
Can we tell?
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. There goes my
Adam's
backpack.
dragging Mike.
Sure.
You can do it, Talia. Adam's going to come back and say hi.
Adam, come on. You can turn it off as soon as I'm done. In December, since everyone's calendar gets kind of crazy, and we know how hard it is around the holidays.
Ooh, no.
I sneezed on that hand too. We know it gets really crazy around the holidays, so we're only going to have one live discussion in December on December 18th. And to make it a little bit easier and to try something new for everybody, it's going to be a graphic novel.
Bum, bum, bum.
And we will be sharing those options for you to vote on.
Soon. Soon.
What are you doing?
I can't see.
Can you tell me which year?
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching.
You got it?
We'll see you next time. This is not helping. None of this is helping. Okay. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye. Now I gotta stop the
We just
stream.
lost
Bye, everybody.
subscribers.